This is one of my favorite objects. My first cup of coffee in this every morning. I'd have my second cup of coffee in it, but that would at least double the likelihood of me breaking it. Yeah, no, exactly double it. Math. And there was a time when I had 2 of these. And I will have 2 again. This week I'm going to repair this one with the traditional practice of pronunciation time. Kin as in family, ji. Kintsugi. Kintsugi. Direct translation: to join with gold, Japanese art repairing broken pottery by mending with lacquered mixed with powdered gold, finding beauty in imperfection. I've never done this before. I've been doing a bunch of research, gathered a lot of materials. Let's go. I've approximated this process before using epoxy and gold leaf. Under that model, I could probably have this done in under an hour. What I'm doing instead is using traditional materials and techniques, and my research tells me this will take many, many weeks. A lot of the materials require considerable curing time between steps. I will sometimes deploy extremely rapid workarounds to problems, partly driven by impatience. I'm looking forward to a more deliberate exercise. What I'm doing now is beveling along the brake lines. If I joined these without a bevel, there wouldn't be a gap between the brakes, and we want to see this repair. And there's a lot of edges to be beveled. This step all by itself is going to take a minute. 'Tis the season, and I received a gift today from a former coworker of mine, Billy Mitchell. It's an action figure of the original Industrial Light and Magic logo. Now, Billy is a collector sort of guy, and he encouraged me to keep this in its packaging, and I get it, and I told him I would. But I've never really been much of a mint in the box, never opened person. The hand isn't angled correctly. It's not. I'm gonna do it. This won't hurt a bit, Mr. Magician. Thought we were done. We're not done. While you were gone, I completed all the individual pieces. We can now see the gap created. Broken mug Pangea, ready to go. I'm now working on the mug itself. This is going to be cemented together with a mixture of flour and raw urushi, and the mixture needs to be correct, and then it sits in a humidity-controlled, temperature-controlled box for a week, and if it doesn't cure correctly, then it seems like you're out of luck. So, to start, we mix. Welcome to the Cinodrome, a little corner of this place where I encourage you to get out there and further support and reap the rewards from the process and labor of folks working with their human hands. And the following relates, but is horribly reductive. Nonetheless, word is that 20% of the media on YouTube at the moment is machine generated, the value of which can be a point of discussion. But I am here to put what wind I can behind the sails of things more tangible, tactile. And in doing so, we have to talk Adam Savage. You all know who he is. He's also a dear friend of mine and an absolute North Star in the celebration of human endeavor. And I would not be doing what I'm doing in the way I'm doing it if not for the trail he blazed. And if you don't know Adam Savage, I don't know how you found your way here. You should go get acquainted. And assuming you do, I'm going to point you to a specific video, link in the description. And it's my personal favorite piece of his. And there's a lot of them. In this, he dives into the many layers of the science of measuring. Metrology? Yeah, metrology. And because it's Adam, by the time he's done, the universe has largely been deconstructed. He told me about it that it's his measuring fever dream, which is about right. Highly recommend. You will thank me, I promise. A week has passed. I did peek at this a couple days ago, and things seem to be going well. The lacquer seems hard. Learning a lot as I do this. My whole life I've talked about lacquer, not really knowing what lacquer is. Lacquer is derived from the sap of a tree, the urushi tree. This was done with raw urushi, straight from the tree, in this case mixed with a bit of flour and water. And it hardens through oxidation in a humid environment, thus the humid environment I created in that box. Well, it is back together. A long way to go yet. Onward to gap filling. This is a mixture that forms a putty, a mixture of tonoko, which is a clay powder, raw urushi again, and kokuso powder, which is some sort of plant fiber. And my understanding, the hope is I can pack it in a fairly messy and thick way. And yeah, it cures and hardens, but it's not so hard that I won't be able to scrape it down with a sharp blade. And there's some fairly big voids, particularly on the inside of this mug. And this putty mixture is a really nice consistency. It fills big gaps with no trouble whatsoever. This now goes back into our humid environment to cure for 3 days. In this case, good luck to you. Seems about right. That's quite satisfying. Thoughts and observations while I slowly scrape. First up, thank you to my members who, without exaggeration, make this all work. I'm now doing weekly behind-the-scenes studio sessions to accompany the main films. They're available to members, and if you are interested in supporting this channel and having access to such things, links to the membership pages at both YouTube and Patreon are in this video's description. Topic at hand, there's a host of things to be said about the art of kintsugi, embracing the flawed or imperfect, the celebration of the life and history of an object, an acceptance of change, and a personal acceptance of our flaws and cracks. I would like to reflect on what this has me thinking about as I scrape. The digital age has introduced what I believe is a novel relationship between humans and things, experiencing things through a virtual space, not a physical space. I can tell you the first time this dynamic entered my consciousness was during a time that I spent many of my waking hours working with imagery that was in a virtual space, through a screen, through pixels. And the day came that I did something I'd always wanted to do, which is get my hands on, collect some paintings by a dear friend of mine, Tracy Miller. And after they were up on the wall, I stepped back, I looked at them, and it only lasted for a split second. What entered my mind was, those look amazing. What resolution are they? The second thought I had was, well, that's messed up. The next related event occurred when I visited my son in college. He was studying photography. I went to his studio and he handed me a large chemical print. I held that print in my hand and I was remarkably moved, and not because of the image itself, but from the object. It had been so long since I had been in the physical presence of such an object that I was reminded, not for the first time, of the power of physical objects made by people. So I consider it important, and undoubtedly it'll only become more important that we all balance the virtual in our lives with experiences that are further down the human end of the spectrum. That can take many different forms. Live music, fabulous. It can also be connection with objects that are designed and fabricated, crafted by human hands. And actually, another wrench that's thrown into all of this is that most of the things we interact with every day have the humanity stripped out of them. Because of the way they're manufactured, we can't feel the human hand in our toasters and our cars. And this situation we find ourselves in is quite new for we humans, and I think we suffer for it. Anyway, back to this mug, which I'm now hitting with a layer of Bengara urushi, which will help smooth out the rough surface of that putty. And this mug is starting to feel like another strong counterpoint to all this foolishness for me. I interact with it every day. It holds my coffee. I now have a new history with this mug as well. It holds my time and care and labor. Old school human stuff. Three days later, this coating, meant to fill pinholes, dried with a million little pinholes in it, but it now polishes out with a very fine sandpaper, 800 grit or so, which I hope won't impact the original glaze in any way. Safety tip, kids. I had read that I needed to be careful about getting this urushi onto my skin because it causes rashes. I thought to myself, well, I'm doing such precise work, I won't get any on my hands. I was wrong. This stuff is no joke. I have rashes on my hands reminiscent of poisoned oak. So the learning continues. Polishing out nicely, though. There are now fewer, but still a lot of little pinholes in the lacquer. So another round of more targeted pinhole filling. Okay, back in the box with you. 3 more days and we've made it to the main event. One more round of smoothing. Another round of a thin application of Bengara urushi. Yeah. And the application of gold powder. One more week. Ding, ding, ding. Round 6. At this point, this simply polishes out with a wet rag. And it's ready for its highest and best use. Just between you and me, it's not really done. I still have to do the entire interior, so another week and a half. Well worth the effort though. Long may it last. Though, I suppose if I broke it again, it would only get better.